Just 17 miles west of the Las Vegas Strip on State Route 159, you'll find the magnificent Red Rock Canyon. In 1990, the status of the area was changed from Red Rock Recreation Lands to a National Conservation Area, the seventh to be designated nationally. This change provides the funding to protect and improve the area. 2 million visitors each year enjoy this spectacular desert landscape, climbing and hiking opportunities, and interpretive programs sponsored by the Bureau of Land Management. The BLM is the largest administrator of public lands in the West. It adheres to the policy of multiple use, thereby providing recreational opportunities, protection for cultural sites, and the management of natural resources, including wildlife. The park is easy to explore with miles of hiking trails, rock climbing, horseback riding, mountain biking, road biking, picnic areas, nature observing, and a visitor center, all conveniently located off the scenic 13-mile loop road. So, Jen O'Brien, you got me to Red Rock finally.
It was awesome. And we actually, I know we're going to talk about our hike here in a minute, and I haven't done that hike in probably 6 years, the one we did at Icebox Canyon.
I'm telling you, the whole thing, as you drive up 159 towards the hills and the mountains
beautiful.
Oh my God, the mountains get larger and larger as you get closer to it. It's stunning. It really is stunning. I mean, clearly it's why, we know why it's called Red Rock, but just the striations of color throughout all of those mountains, absolutely unbelievable. So Jen, since you've been there so many times, why don't you tell us about some of your other experiences before we actually get into the hike that we went on?
Absolutely. And, I've lived in Las Vegas since 1993, and I used to live on the west side of town. I'm more in the Green Valley area now, so I don't get out as much as I like to, but when I was really close to it in Summerlin, I was telling you, I used to ride my road bike to the park, which was a good couple miles anyway to go, and then you'll see cyclists quite a bit training in Red Rock. I have to say, couldn't do that now to save my life. I'd have to train to do that again, but it's an excellent way to do that 13-mile loop. It's pretty much for the first 6.5 miles all uphill. And then you're kind of like cruising, but you don't even feel like you're in Las Vegas. I always have a sense of being out of Las Vegas. It reminds me quite a bit of Sedona, which is one of my favorite places in the world. And so I feel like it's my getaway space. Sometimes when I just feel like I need a break, I will drive. It's not far. Again, it's just outside of Las Vegas. If you're on the west side, it's literally right off at Charleston. It turns into the state road, and you go a couple miles and you're at the visitor center entrance. A national park pass will get you in because it is a national conservation area. But there are so many hikes, and I've done a lot of them. There's the one that came to mind when we hiked the other day, and I actually pulled up some pictures, and I'm going to send them to you. And I just actually said to Matt, this is going to be our next hike, and I have to really train for this one. It's called Juniper Peak, and a lot of people don't actually know this. It's actually kind of hard to find even on their site. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find this hike on the Red Rock site, actually, Matt, when I was looking. And so I found a buddy of mine wrote a book on hiking Las Vegas that I've hiked with in the past. But this is like a little bit of a boulder scramble.
Yeah, no kidding. Then, the pictures were crazy.
But it's like a really nice entrance, like they all are. There's an approach. It warms you up. And then you get into an area where you're scrambling on the boulders. And then you literally have to do a bit of a scramble / climb. You don't need ropes or anything. But you gain 2,000 feet elevation. But here's what's the payoff on that particular hike. And it really inspires me to want to do it again, is that you have to kind of go up a crevice, a little bit of a chimney, and you're doing a little bit of climbing. You get to the top, and you have these amazing views of the whole valley through Las Vegas. And you just feel like you've actually accomplished something. I think you're at about 6,600 feet when you get to the top of that hike. And again, you got to be ready for it. It's a 2,000 foot elevation gain.
It's crazy because, you think, a lot of people associate desert with, kind of low level lands, but no, you're in the high desert, and, you can get up to pretty significant elevation areas in the park. I mean, 66 is high. There's
something for everyone, because you just take the drive. It's a single loop, one-way loop. And so throughout the drive, if you're just wanting to sightsee, you can pull over, just hike a little bit and get some great shots, photos if you want to, but you can also take some very, very easy trails There's a couple trails that walk along. Of course, there's not much water in the desert, but there are certain times that I have seen the creeks have some water. But mainly you're seeing these gorgeous red rocks. You can actually scramble around on them, and there's plenty of easy to moderate to strenuous hikes throughout the whole park.
All right, well, let's kind of just get into what where we went. It was an area called Icebox Canyon. And before we actually get there, let me just say this. If you are going to go out and do any hiking, I mean any hiking, even short hikes there, make sure you're prepared. You are in the desert. It is usually hot. Make sure you have plenty of water to drink. Make sure you're wearing appropriate clothing. I mean, this is not a place to be scrambling around in flip-flops, for crying out loud. And when I see that, it drives me crazy, because not only is it not safe, but I mean, it's just, I feel for people that do that, so wear appropriate shoes, wear appropriate clothing, and then look out for the normal things you're going to need to look out for when you're hiking. Watch around you. There are denizens of the desert, right? There's snakes out there and scorpions and stuff, none of which we saw of any, but that doesn't mean they're not around. So keep your eyes peeled so you have a safe hike. And then if you're doing any sort of, rock scrambling or, climbing up any rocks, make sure that you are careful. The rocks are slippery, so which you will probably hear a little of shortly. But go prepared. You're going to have a much safer and happier time.
Absolutely true.
Right. So anyway, here we are at Icebox Canyon. Jan pulls car off, and it was just like, okay, here we go. So Jan, you want to just kind of take over the first part?
And we chose this one because, again, Matt he's such an avid hiker, and he hadn't been to Red Rock, and I thought this is a little bit of a moderate hike. It requires you to do a little boulder scrambling, and and I'm remembering the last time I did it, and I was a lot fitter, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love scrambling on these boulders. It's not going to be hard. I think it's one way in about 2.5 miles, right? So it was about a 5-mile round trip hike that we did, right?
Right. I've been reading conflicting things on that. I was reading something online just before we came on today that said the round trip was around 3 miles. So I think it's definitely 3+. Let's just put it that way.
I guess it depends on, because there's a couple of offshoots that you can do. I was talking to somebody about doing the hike, and they said, you can get, and we actually found some of those routes. So you could get down, and what we did is it's a really nice approach, right? You're slowly moving yourself into the to the canyon, all open, the typical scrub and the
manzanita. Oh my God, the manzanita was beautiful.
So it's a nice little approach. And as you're getting closer, you start to see that you're really going to go into this really cool canyon. And now there are a couple things that you can do. You can take some trails that will take you above, which is basically a riverbed, but that is dry. It has nothing but stones and boulders in it at this point, and a lot of great trees, right? Weren't you impressed with the trees that you saw?
Oh my gosh,
as soon as we got into the canyon?
Absolutely. You walk back in there, and it looks as though there's really not going to be much of anything, beyond bushes, or small plants. But no, there's actual beautiful trees back in the area. It was, I'm telling you, absolutely gorgeous, because you're walking into that canyon, and it kind of closes in on you, right? Because you are going back to where the canyon ends, and it is phenomenal.
And it's a slight, very, very easy grade, right? As we're scrambling on the boulders, and a couple of spots where you have to decide which way you're going to go.
When you are hiking up the riverbed, you'll come to many areas where there will be large boulders in your way. So there are usually a couple different options. You can kind of either go around or up and over. So at that time, you kind of make the determination in which way you want to go and what feels the most comfortable and safest for you.
And then I knew that we were eventually going to get to the end. This basically gets to an end with a wall that, depending on the time of year and what's been happening with the weather, that we might see some pools, and we might actually see, a little bit of a trickle or a waterfall. And I've been there when there's been a bit of a waterfall, and I've actually hiked it in the winter when it's been frozen like a sheet of ice. And so and here's what was happening for me, Matt. I was like, okay, we don't, nothing's marking how far is it. We don't really know how far we're going, but as you're hiking, you almost feel like you're getting to the end. And no, you're not to the end yet. You're hiking, you're scrambling over these boulders, you're doing a little bit of climbing. It's really, the canyon kind of tightens up in there. And then you think you're finally going to get to and I'm like, I can't wait to show them where we're going to get to the pools. And no.
It's like, psych.
It's psych. The canyon, goes to the left, and there's still going to be, maybe a quarter mile or so before you finally get to where you want to, where you'll have to end. And
the color on the canyon walls is also really amazing too. I mean, it's goes from kind of the pinkish to a deep red to the really dark, almost onyx kind of beautiful dark color all throughout and it changes as you go down and get deeper and deeper into the canyon area. It's crazy. It's crazy because you don't expect to see what you see in that canyon when you're out there on the road. Completely different.
Oh my gosh.
Look.
And then what about the views and the clouds? Some of the shots that we got from just turning around after we'd walked for a while, it was just a gorgeous day. The skies were so blue. The clouds were really, really showing the difference in the colors, actually, right?
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
From the walls.
When we got to the end of the canyon, there was just a little trickle of water, right? Yeah. It's almost like someone left the water running.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like there was any sort of waterfall, but you certainly could hear the water. And what we really saw were like really two major pools. There was like a little pooling area, and I was like, wow, that's the pool?
The lower
like, what? That actually, we were like the lower pool where it was like, oh, there's a little puddle of water. What the hell? I'm like, this is beautiful, Jan O'Brien. Thank you so much.
I'm like, Matt, welcome to the desert.
Yeah. So, but you climb up a little bit of a rock face. That first area wasn't super challenging to get up, although we were commenting on our way up as this is going to be a little more challenging going down.
We were all in, both of us. I'm like, hey Matt, you want to climb up to the top? I mean, it literally is. If you've got any fear of heights, you may have some challenges with this last part, but we were not going to let this pass us by.
No.
And Matt scrambled right up the first little what I guess you would call it, a boulder or
I mean, really it was just the side of the mountain there, and you get up to the smaller
plenty of holds, and then you got to that lower pool.
Yeah, and it was pretty, but it was a smaller pool too. But then it was a larger area to kind of scramble up to get to that upper pool, and we were like, no, I'm doing it because
we had
you can't
no trouble getting up there.
Well, for crying out loud, you got to be able to see what's happening up there, right? And it was actually up there at the top. That was a much larger pool area and much deeper, and just the water was so clear, and you could not that there was anything inside. It was just the kind of the basin of that boulder area there, but it was gorgeous. And you could literally say you went as far back as you possibly could have gone, up in the main. So I felt as though we had accomplished what we went to do.
It was worth it. Now we had to get down though.
Well, yeah, there's a getting down part.
And I will just say that my memories of doing this in the past, I was like, I really could slip on this. I better be careful. And so I made it to the first little area, and then honestly, it's kind of steep. When the second area that you have to actually climb, that we climbed up first, was, let's just say it was really slick, and there was almost like a little cutout where you could, it looked like a natural rock slide, frankly.
Yeah. Huh.
And all I'm going to say is that I took a slide, and I was preparing myself for it, and I just quickly got to the bottom of that particular rock by sliding right on my butt all the way down.
But also stopping before you went off the other little precipice down into the creek bed below. Might I add.
No harm, no foul, no scratches. It was well worth it.
Because a lot of times when you're hiking and you're on, doing things like that, you see your own life flash before your eyes. Oh no, I saw Jan O'Brien's flash before my eyes.
Now, the good news is he did not get a photo of that because he was too busy making sure he didn't fall as he was scrambling down the same little
Which,
rock.
of course, I did. And
of course, he had my phone because his phone had died. So I did not capture that, and that would have made my life.
So it's all good. But see how we fessed up to our, sliding down the mountain?
We slipped, but we weren't hurt, and it was all good. And then we had a wonderful hike back out.
Well, as Jan was saying, really the hike out is every bit as great as the hike in. Because
you see everything differently.
Because what happens on the way out is you're coming from this narrow area, and as the farther you walk, the more it's like your panorama gets larger and larger and larger, and so it opens up into the desert down below, and it's absolutely just it's beautiful. And we did hit a day with the most gorgeous cloud cover. So these white billowing clouds that were on top of the canyons as you walked out of that hike, just to see the expanse of clouds. So it really made it, I think, even more spectacular because the clouds were so gorgeous and the sky was so blue.
Yeah, so Icebox Canyon is about 3/4 of the way into the loop, I would say. You come in from the visitor center and you pass all the various areas. You'll see where a lot of tourists stop. There wasn't many people on this particular hike that day. And then when you get back out, you've only got just a little bit to go, and then you're back out of the 13-mile loop, and it's definitely worth it. I really encourage. I've lived here for so long, and you sometimes take for granted what's in your own backyard, and so it encouraged me to go out and start doing some more hiking in that area myself. It's one of the many areas that you can get outside of Las Vegas and get up and get out and enjoy the nature.
And so quickly outside of the city too. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. There obviously are restrooms at the visitor center. In a lot of the parking lots around the park at the different trailheads, there are little small restrooms as well. There is one at Icebox Canyon, as a matter of fact, that you can do your business in before you go. There is an admission fee to the park. When Jan and I were there just last week, that admission was $7 per auto. But on the 19th of February, which is just right around the corner, or when is that? Tomorrow?
It's going up,
yeah, it's going up to $10 per vehicle, and $15 per vehicle. So pretty good jump. But you got to remember those monies are going towards the park and protection. Absolutely. So it's all for a good thing and very much worth it. On that same note, if you happen to miss something or not stop somewhere and want to go back and see it again, that $15 carries you for the whole day. So you can drive around that 13-mile loop as many times as you want to.
And get your National Park annual pass. It'll get you into that as well. For those
always a very good tip. Thank you very much. Very much of that, Jan O'Brien.